wrestling fans of the world. Welcome to the Flying Gaijin.Bombcast, where we bring you the finest in analysis on New Japan Pro Wrestling, at least on this side of the Pacific. Coming to you from the sunny shores of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, I am your host, Zachary Randall, and with me, my co-host, the man that tried to steal from Medicare to fund socialism, Mad Matt Thompson. Matty, how you doing?
I'm doing well, despite, what was that? Did the Clash do I fought the law and the law won? I'm sure that's one that's been done by everybody, but indeed, I did just that.
Well, you tried valiantly.
Mm-hmm. This is true. Alas, what can you do?
Well,
so, it's been a pretty chill weekend, other than the Packers tying with the Vikings.
So, nobody's tuning into the show to listen to us talk about football, but how 2 weeks into the NFL season do you have two ties? I don't get how that happens.
Me either. Both of which involved my two favorite teams as well, so what can you do about that either? It's just craziness.
Well, the Browns one was such a trip. First of all, they should have won the game, but secondly, they're celebrating their first non-loss since December 2016, and it's like, I mean, that's cool, but on the other hand, you still fucking tied.
Yeah, it's the most Browns way to go, to end your losing streak, is by tying.
NFL trivia: who was that last Browns win against?
The San Diego, now the Los Angeles Chargers. I don't even know if they were San Diego at the time or not.
I think they were still. I think that would have been San Diego. That's your old man's favorite team. What do you think about that?
Yes, and he was in attendance, so he was not too thrilled.
Oh my God.
He and my brother drove in the snow to go to cold ass Cleveland. You're right on the lake, so it's always frigid. And I figure you're gonna win the game because the team you're playing is winless on the year, and go figure. So one game they decided to win.
I actually remember as a kid talking football with your old man, and I even remember he had this seething hatred of the Browns even back in the late 80s, early 90s.
Well, being married to a Steelers family for so long has made him loathe the Steelers more, so for what that's worth.
I don't think he even liked that back then. He didn't like the Steelers too much, because I would kind of hear from him about Steelers fans, and then I start hearing from you about Yenzers, so it's kind of,
Yeah, I mean, if you're in the Western Pennsylvania region, in which I inhabit as well, don't be too offended, but yeah, they can be insufferable sometimes.
Yeah, it's I get the positive societal benefits of sports, and it brings people together, and it gives sort of a sense of pride, but you do love how okay, so the franchise has won 6 Super Bowls or whatever, and then that has somehow become a group of people's reflection of their own toughness or whatever. Or in Chicago, Chicago had a good defense back in 1985 or whatever, so that means that people from Chicago were tough, and it's nah, dog, it's just football.
Precisely, and they're the ones that I've known in my being so far on this earth. They tend to be pretty fair weather fans. Team starts tanking and they just kind of give up halfway through the year. So
if Big Ben has a Theismann fracture this year, everybody will drop off by the playoffs.
Yeah, probably by week 8.
Got it. Okay, this is good to know. So,
yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, and Matthew too, it's been a little while since you've heard from me. As you know, I have been on assignment. I'm an international man of mystery, so I can only talk so much about what I was up to, but I was, not really in a situation where Matt and I could get on Skype and record a show, even though I was doing my best to keep up with the world of professional wrestling.
Yeah, my whole family got sick as well during that time period, so on my end it wasn't a cakewalk either trying to get this coordinated.
Well, you did. You were a trooper getting you did the 2 solo shows, which was pretty cool. Last week we were going to come to you with a show about All In, jet lag just kicked my ass. You were sick as well. But we put our boots on, pulled ourselves up, and we're ready to do a show this week. Even having a little bit of a rough weekend over here because we're ready to talk about some wrestling. Actually, since I've been back, things have been a little crazy. Obviously, I got a little, jet lag. I mean, I guess jet lag isn't crazy, but I got a little sick when I got back from the jet lag. But Monday of last week, started having some health problems with my youngest cat, Orchid. I thought she had like the worst case of diarrhea that's ever had, and it sort of came on out of nowhere. And I took her into the doctor, and it turns out that the stuff wasn't coming out of her butt, but was coming out of her. It was coming out of her genitals, and turns out she had a condition called pyometra, and that she had to have emergency surgery, or she was going to die because her uterus was going to burst.
Jesus.
So that whole thing, like Monday, was like terrifying as I was starting to realize that something was wrong with her. And then just sort of the mess that ended up being involved with it. She got through surgery okay. And sort of, I guess, the cute part I've been about it since then, since she's been home, has been she's been on, in addition to a couple antibiotics, she's been on a painkiller too. I don't know if you've ever seen a stone cat before, but it's pretty funny.
I'm sure it could be. Yeah, I can see that. I've never seen one in person, but yeah, I can imagine.
So the combination of her all sprawled out on my desk, just sort of like laying there with her eyes half open and standing up and randomly licking me on the face. It's yeah. So I've been getting in some pleasant father-daughter time because she's got a cone on and I can't. Number one, she's got a cone on and I can't leave her alone because I don't want her like running around and jumping too much and ripping her stitches loose, or I got to keep her away from the other cats so they don't attack. So it's been quite stressful, and I'm also $2,000 poorer. And I totally cannot hear you, Matthew.
Oh, I said that's quite a chunk of change there. That's brutal.
That's what happened. So anyway, we're gonna talk about some wrestling now. First thing that we're gonna talk about, since it's a little bit old news now, we're not gonna dive in too depth, but it's important to talk about, is All In. This is what we were gonna talk about last week before both of us got sick. The first thing I guess I want to say about All In is that Cody Rhodes fucking rules. I love Cody Rhodes. And this is such like a vindicating moment for him to go out and promote this show. Biggest indie wrestling show ever in U.S. history. Biggest non-WWE show since I don't know when. I don't necessarily know that WCW had regularly had shows with over 10,000 people. Maybe they did. And then it's just there's so many levels of vindication there for that, showing that he can make it on his own, showing that there is large-scale demand for another kind of wrestling. I think it's very vindicating, I think, for the whole Rhodes family. When you consider how Dusty was treated by Vince during his tenures at WWE. Yeah. And then that moment of him winning the title, which we'll talk about some more in a little bit. But, oh, dude, I can't believe that just like the hate that I saw pouring out of just like every nook and cranny. Not every nook and cranny. I just felt a ton of hate pouring out about the show, like trying to find reasons to like hate on it, or they must have secret funding, or, I can't believe Cody gave that speech at the end. It sounds so petty. And I think saying that that this is professional wrestling and professional wrestling is owned by one man or one company, that's hardly petty.
Yeah, I don't understand that either. I really don't know what those people gain from that attitude. Doesn't make sense to me.
So on a high level, just rambling here for a little bit. Tell me what you on a high level what you thought about this show.
It introduced me to a lot of people I didn't know and who I really enjoyed coming out of it. Names I'd obviously heard, but I never watched a match of theirs before. So for me, that's probably the highest mark I can give it, is that it introduced me to new people who I enjoy.
The
Namely being like Joey Janela and Penta.
so hey, let me get on a segue here for a second, if you don't mind. I went to an MLW
Sure.
taping. I guess it was September the 6th. That you said it was like a week and a half ago. So I actually got to see. It was cool. So I got to see. Actually got to see MJF, who was on All In. Actually, MJF in a mixed tag team match against Joey Ryan, and they didn't do the dick flip.
Shocking.
Yeah, they didn't. Maybe it's because it was a TV taping, so maybe they don't want it. Maybe the network doesn't want them doing the dick flip.
That's feasible. Yeah.
It was weird. I was actually sitting we were ringside. I was sitting actually like 20 feet from Tony Schiavone.
Yes. Shavante.
Schiavone.
Schiavone. Indeed.
God, who else? So I got to see. Obviously, so I said Joey Ryan and MJF. Got to see Penta Jr., Ray Phoenix, L.A. Park. Dude, L.A. Park is so fucking fat.
Please. How old is he?
I think he's in his 50s, but he is a big fat guy, and he's still doing some of the flying stuff too.
That's all. That's tremendous. I didn't even think that would be possible at his age. Good for him.
Yeah, and dude, he's such a good heel. And what's funny is that he'll do some of his old like 90s spots where he'll like do like his little dance or whatever. And then the crowd will pop, and then as soon as he gets back to wrestling, it's like back to booing him because he's just such a rotten fucking bastard.
That's awesome. I figured he would just be doing chair spots. Like that'd be all he would do.
Well, I saw he did saw him do a it was a hardcore match. I can't remember what they called it. I can't remember what they called it. It was they gave it some other name, like you know how they'll call it WWE will call they're in Chicago, they'll always have a Chicago street fight. It was something like that, but
Gotcha.
I got to see Ray Phoenix take on Loki for the MLW title. Saw Filthy Tom Lawler and Joey Janela, which is an odd fucking matchup, but Janela actually kept up with him with Filthy Tom.
That does sound like quite a little styles clash there.
And that
interesting.
That match. That match ended with James Storm running out and hitting Filthy Tom with a beer bottle. Dude, James Storm is fucking jacked. Like,
really? Was that his first MLW appearance, as far as you know?
You know what? I don't know.
Okay.
I have to say truthfully, I haven't been totally keeping up with it. But let's see what else. But yeah, James Storm is like really jacked. I didn't recognize him at first. I almost thought it's obviously they only very vaguely look like him. Like, is that fucking Lance Archer here? Because Davey Boy was there. Obviously, it's not Archer because Archer's like really tall.
Yeah, he's huge.
Yeah, Heart Foundation was there, which was I got to tell you, Davey Boy, Teddy Hart, and Flying Brian Jr. are a hell of a stable, and I am looking forward to seeing how this develops.
That's awesome. That's good for them.
So it's like, okay, so we see Davey Boy wrestle all the time, so we know what he brings to the table. And by the way, Davey Boy Smith Jr. is a fucking amazing wrestler, and he obviously is a top guy in New Japan because you're gonna very shortly see him and Archer back in the. I'm sure you're gonna see them sitting with the Bucks very soon, feeding with the Bucks soon, which actually will be awesome. Teddy Hart is fucking insane, but he's entertaining insane. And then Flying Brian is crazy young, right? Looks just like his dad. Really talented. He's still pretty green though, but you can tell he's just having like the best fucking time ever, and that makes me happy seeing that. Like he is enjoying himself so much.
That's awesome. I've never seen him wrestle before. So, like, what would is his style similar to his dad's, or what would you say about that?
Um, it's hard to say because I saw him in like mixed situations. I did see him do one short match.
Oh,
My
okay.
takeaway from the match is that he's a little green, so I wouldn't go so far as to compare him to his dad. And then, I mean, I think I think he's trying to be a cross between Flying Brian and then like completely fucking unhinged Brian Pillman, the loose cannon. Uh,
Okay.
I mean, because Brian Pillman was a guy that could go out and have a 5-star match. I mean, and he did go out and he did because he had one with Jushin Liger.
Right.
Junior is not there yet, but he's talented.
Okay.
The talent is manifest, so that's cool. So those guys seem to be like one of the centers of the company, and then there's this basically the MLW version of Zelina Vega, who has a stable that has like Low Key and L.A. Park and L.A. Park's son El Hijo, who is a scrawny little guy. They're like feuding with Conan and then the Lucha Brothers. And then she has like she has so it's like it's low key L.A. Park, El Hijo de L.A. Park, and I don't know if there's anybody else in her stable. But those guys kind of seem to be like the centers of the company, and then MJF is actually their middleweight champion. Now, sadly for me, the show went on like way too long. And that's not like a critique, like really a critique. Just for me, it was way too long because it was a War Games. They headlined it with a War Games match, which we didn't stay for because we'd been there for nearly 4 hours, and they just then started putting the cage up. It's a TV taping, so it
Oh,
has to go
wow.
long. But dude, this is the worst fucking
Right.
crowd I've ever been at a show with. Just like
No shit.
it's like imagine everything bad about a WWE crowd. It's just, but they're like more obnoxious and just trying to get themselves over at every opportunity and kind of like being abusive towards a talent.
That's really lame.
This dude, like if you go to a New Japan show, like everybody's kind of cool, right? Um,
I would imagine.
you go to an
I would
NXT.
imagine that the All In crowd was pretty awesome. That's what I've heard from all accounts.
That
As far as podcasting and stuff since then.
yeah, that's what I've heard too. NXT shows are generally pretty good, but if you have to try not to listen to the people around you talking because you'll sort of hear like dumb WWE speak, and then you get like the dumb chants or whatever. But this was all three of us were like that were there. It's my little local wrestling crew were like fairly upset with the audience that we were sitting around. Um, so no, that's no diss on Court or MLW or anything that they're doing, but it ended up being a little bit of a turnoff for me.
Yeah, you can't control your clientele, unfortunately. So
Well, two things they said
as
at
far as
this
who you get to show up.
two things they said at the start of the show were no middle fingers and no swearing. Yeah, that didn't happen.
That's almost inviting it though if you do that.
I mean, I
Let's
guess,
be honest.
but if the thing is, if you're a fan, you're paying to go to it, like to be part of a TV taping and basically be a part of the show. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's pretty disrespectful. I mean, I'm not saying that it's not, but yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. So anyway, I got on a little tangent there, and Conan is in there as a manager too. I don't know if I mentioned that because he manages the Lucha Brothers.
That's awesome. Yeah, he's I'm enjoying him on the MLW podcast now that he's back associated with them again. So that's pretty cool that he's getting involved.
And yeah, dude, I mean, he cuts a hell of a promo. So him coming and then him being not. I mean, he's sort of low. I mean, he's from Cuba, so that almost makes him a local. But just sort of seeing him, coming in with his little slow Cuban drawl was something a little comforting about it.
Yeah, I can understand that for sure.
So jumping back into All In. So you like that you got to discover some new talent. Like any other high level thoughts you have about it?
Gosh, just that it's a huge watershed moment. I feel like it's just a really historic thing as far as, what's capable, or what's out there for the future of independent wrestling.
Yeah, agreed. Um, I liked Riccaboni on commentary. I haven't heard him a ton because I don't necessarily watch a ton of ROH, just because I don't get. I might have a Sinclair station, but I don't think I do. I can check that. And then on top of that, I do have an Honor Club sub, but the quality ends up being shitty. So a lot of times, even if there's a Ring of Honor show I want to see, I end up not watching it just because it's like, yeah, it ends up being kind of a pain in the ass.
Yeah. One thing with this is that, with All In, is that I don't know if it was the ROH crew or if it was a hybrid of that and something else, but everything came off really well
That was
from the
an
production
amazing
side.
looking show. Actually, the show looks better than your typical ROH show does. There were
I'm
definitely
sure of it. Yeah.
there definitely were Ring of Honor people involved with that. But yeah, they but yeah, they made a show that looked great. Also, you know what I like, and I can't remember if you and I have talked about this personally yet. They made their fans happy with this show. They gave them what they wanted to see. They gave them largely expected endings. There was one surprise, which wasn't like an out of left field surprise. It was a predictable surprise, and it still worked. There was nothing combative about the booking. What's funny is Vince will say something like that they want to put smiles on people's faces, and they're utterly fucking incapable of putting smiles on people's faces. I mean, we'll see where this goes and how successful these guys end up being if they want to keep promoting. But just to me, strikes me as how you should promote professional wrestling, that you take your fans on a journey and they don't necessarily get to pick the destination, but you end up dropping them off at a destination that they love.
Yeah. They gave the people what they wanted. There's no question about that.
So, so I get, yeah, we're in agreement on that one then.
Absolutely.
It was just a happy, feel good thing, and it made me feel good about professional wrestling and made me feel good about being a professional wrestling fan, which there's a long time where that wasn't happening.
Yeah, that's true. So it's by contrast, it's really refreshing.
Agreed. So let's jump in and start talking about the card a little bit. We didn't see the pre-show. He said I was out of the country, so I wouldn't have had access to WGN. And I don't know what actually, Maddie you watched it on New Japan World. So if any,
Yeah,
actually,
I don't know. I don't know if I have WGN on my Sling account or not. I've never even really thought to look.
so yeah. Apparently the pre-show did, I guess, like 200,000 viewers, which I guess is gigantic for that channel.
Yeah, that's on par with any Impact Wrestling show at
That's
least. So
way
it's
above and
pretty,
beyond Impact.
yeah,
Yeah, that's way bigger than Impact is these days, which is crazy considering Impact used to do a solid million guaranteed.
yeah. Let's kind of think of it, like how that would work today. They'd probably be in pretty good standing if they could hold those kind of numbers on a channel like what's now the Paramount Network, but used to be Spike when they
Well,
were on it.
I mean, it seems like from everything I hear that Callis knows what he's doing. I can't believe I'm going to compliment Don Callis. That Don Callis really knows what he's doing with Impact. So if they, get themselves a good roster and put on good wrestling, and they detach themselves as much as possible from the old TNA, and maybe like leverage a tape library for guys like Samoa Joe and AJ, but otherwise detach themselves from that past. I mean, there's no reason they couldn't end up with like on a good network again.
Yeah, and that would be good. That'd be good for the industry as a whole. So I hope for their sake that it happens.
More places to work for all the guys and gals is a good thing. So Maddie, jump in and start. Let's start running down the matches here. We won't go too deep on most of these since this is old news at this point. But tell us about Matt Cross versus MJF.
Yeah, I'd seen, or not seen, I'd heard NJF on an episode. I think it was of Pat McNeil hosting the PW Torch live cast. So I had heard him do like that bit of that snobbish, character that he does all the time because he's always in character, like he
That's what
was
I've
on
heard
that
too.
podcast. So it was pretty impressive. So I knew what to expect with him, even though it's my first match seeing him, and he did really well. He's got that character down pat for sure.
I saw him on one of the WrestleMania shows last week, and when I was sort of buying a bunch of the those indie events, I remember who it was. Maybe it was Evolve or something, and I saw him first then. Um, yeah, he's got that character nailed down. He is a despicable heel. Yeah, I would assume one of those guys that makes sense that he ends up in NXT.
Oh yeah, that's definitely in his future if he keeps it up. But he's only what 22 years old, I think they said on commentary. So
Yeah, he's
yeah,
he's very very young.
he's got a bright future for sure.
Um, Cross went over there with a cutter and a shooting star press. Um, this match actually apparently wasn't announced. They actually included that at the last minute, and maybe should not have.
Yeah, as far as the timing issues that we can talk about later on as the show progressed, yeah, it probably wasn't the greatest idea.
So Sean Mooney did an interview with Nick Aldis, and I fucking loved this. This was like such old school wrestling. Sean Mooney is great. Aldis was great as like a heel world champion. Dude, I miss wrestling having these kind of interviews. Man, if there was a and I haven't watched the MLW TV show. Maybe they do that. I would just love to see that sort of throwback stage and have like the sports interview with the champion, or even the stuff like the back in the day with Mean Gene doing the interviews, like all the old Macho Man interviews.
Yeah, it's classic stuff. I mean, you took the words right out of my mouth. It's very, very sports like, and that's something I enjoy in my wrestling products. In the presentation. So that's
Yep.
pretty great.
So up next we had Christopher Daniels taking on Stephen Amell. Stephen Amell, of course, of Arrow. He's buddies with the Bullet Club guys. Jerry Lynn reffing the match, which was cool. Jerry Lynn actually looks like a middle school football coach now.
Totally. Yeah. I love that Stephen Amell got what I would call the Bullet Club jobber theme song. Kind of like how how like back in the day with NWO they had like the main like Hendrix theme that they used for the big guys, and they had like this the NWO jobber theme song. I wish I could karaoke it with my mouth right now, but I don't remember how it goes.
That is awesome.
Like guys like I think even like Chono when he was in the States would use it, and then like Vincent/Virgil would use it, and your lower tier NWO guys. So like with this one, it used to be I think it used to be Guns and Gallows entrance, but then like once they left, it just kind of became the designated jobber theme for the Bullet Club lower tier guys.
That is amazing.
And
That reminds me of a side note. So one of my wrestling bros is this guy named Chase, who actually looks a little bit like Chase Owens. But my friend has
okay,
got himself they actually look a whole lot alike. But my buddy Chase has actually got himself in amazing shape. He's like dropped 60 pounds. He looks fucking awesome. And I've told him a couple times, and I'm like, dude, I think you should be the new Chase in the Bullet Club. And he said he met the Bucks and Kenny Omega. It's probably like a year ago or something. And he saw them separately from one another, like on opposite sides of the building. And they both, I guess they said something like when he introduced himself, they said, "Oh yeah, the same as the worst guy in the Bullet Club."
oh, ouch,
Yeah, it's like,
poor fella.
wow, poor Crown Jewel.
I mean, he's not a bad guy. He's not a bad wrestler.
No, he's just
Oh
a
well.
jobber.
Yeah, just that's good natured ribbing. I'm sure he's probably fine
I
with that.
the Bucks and Kenny both seem like perfectly like decent human beings. So,
Oh yeah, totally.
by the way, dude, I saw somebody call Kenny the 6-letter F word for a gay man on Twitter.
Classy.
Yeah. Yeah, I reported him.
Good.
Because
Rotten bastard.
Kenny was making some posts about playing video because Kenny's a video gamer. I mean, that's part of his gimmick, but it's not a gimmick. And he was talking about some of the games that he was playing during, like during his off time during the G1, which I'm sure he needed to wind down big time during that. And just somebody was just like mercilessly like riding him on Twitter. And Kenny actually just like keeps his chill about him, but will just sort of like be like, okay, I see what kind of person you are. Moving on.
Yeah, that's how you tactfully do it. So good for him taking the high road.
It's still amazing to me that human beings speak to one another that way.
Yeah, I mean it's extremely unfortunate.
So Chris Daniels and Stephen Amell. This was cool for what it was. I mean, Chris Daniels is a legend. He's one of the best wrestlers ever. So he actually got a, Stephen Amell got to hit his spots, and he got to go out and show that he could be a good celebrity wrestler. He's obviously green as hell. This is his third wrestling match, and this probably went a little too long, but I mean, it was enjoyable.
Yeah, perfectly passable match. That's like, if I had to boil it down to, what simple phrase like that. They also showed John Mayer in the front row during this match. It was when they showed it on the broadcast, so that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. There were the show was
Do
a big
you
deal, man.
do you appreciate John Mayer as a guitar guy, or what are your thoughts?
I mean, I'm not into his music, but I mean, he's obviously a great guitar player. He's definitely like one of those modern guys that when you're learning to play guitar, that like that's somebody that makes people go pick up a guitar.
Yeah. Would you be shocked if I told you I saw him in concert like 10, 11 years ago?
I would not.
Yeah, that was the thing I did in high school.
That's okay, man.
Yeah.
Dude, I saw fucking Korn and Limp Bizkit. Okay, like,
Dude, that would have like creamed my jeans if I was like a 10-year-old and I got to see that. So good for you.
That was that was 20 years ago. So that you weren't quite into your Korn phase yet. You weren't Little Fieldy yet.
No, I was probably just on the cusp of my Limp Bizkit phase because they came first for me.
I remember your dad coming to visit us once, and he's talking about you being into Korn, and I'm just sort of like, I gave him this whole lecture about, because you were already playing bass at this point. I was giving him this lecture about getting you to listen to Black Sabbath, and like I went and did like really detailed about what he needed to do, and I think he actually did it, seeing how you turned out like now, 15 years later or whatever.
Yeah, that was a thing that for sure happened. Like he personally taught me how to play the riff to Iron Man, and that was pretty much it. It was, that was like the green flag or the green light for everything that followed. So
Yeah. So lost my train of thought there for a second. Yeah, it's basically like, dude, first 6 Black Sabbath albums, study them, and then we'll go from there.
yeah,
What was I going to say? So Amel did that crazy Shane O'Mac drive there, the coast to coast. I was actually say, by the way, Amel's in great shape. He's not like wrestler jacked, but he's kind of fucking jacked, dude. Like if you saw him on the street, it would be like, wow, that guy's kind of fucking jacked up.
yeah. It seemed like from all accounts, like a pretty good athlete. So that was. Yeah, it wasn't like a celebrity who was like totally out of shape, like David Arquette having a match. So
Yeah. So Jerry Lynn had like a weird heel moment in the match, which I didn't really understand. Obviously, Christopher Daniels ends up going over here as it should be. But again, this match was good for what it was.
absolutely. So yeah, same thing with the next match, the women's match. Tessa Blanchard, Chelsea Green, Madison Rayne, and Britt Baker. It just seemed like a really frenetic spot fest kind of match.
This
definitely had its moments.
This was like the weak point on the show for me. They really wanted to go out and do something great, and they I don't know. They didn't. Tessa has star written all over her. I actually wish Magnum and Tully had actually come down to the ring with her. And apparently in the building, they did not introduce Magnum and Tully. So like a lot of the fans there didn't know who Magnum TA was because he doesn't look like I recognize him when I see him because I've seen him on enough like interviews. Tully still looks like Tully though, but I guess the fans didn't recognize him. So it would have been cool for those two, especially for Magnum to get that pop. But that was still was awesome that they were there at the entrance with her. Tessa's going to be a superstar.
Yeah, she's another one who's really young and got a ton of potential.
I think I could be wrong. I think she is. I think she's Ricochet's girlfriend.
Last I knew, yeah,
Okay.
that's true.
That's what I thought. I just it randomly reminded me of something because it was thinking me about like second generation female wrestlers. Although actually, Tess is at least a third generation because Tully's dad was a wrestler and a promoter.
Right.
So Lance Storm is back doing shows on The Observer with Brian Alvarez. And Lance is fucking awesome on podcasts because he's so smart and articulate and knows wrestling so well. But he was talking about training Rachel Ellering because at his wrestling school he actually gets in the ring and works with everybody. Like he has matches with them, and he's basically talking about teaching Rachel Ellering how to work and how basically had to show her that she didn't know as much as she thought and that she actually didn't know how to work.
Oh damn.
Yeah, that's also the thing about Lance Storm too, is that he is incredibly like fucking blunt, never mean, but he is like direct as hell.
Yeah, he doesn't seem like the type to mince words. No doubt.
No, he does not. So moving on, this is one of the big highlights of the night. We have NWA World Heavyweight Champion Nick Aldis taking on Cody for the title.
Yeah, totally had that big fight feel. Everything about it as far as the package leading up to it, the the corner men for each combatant.
That made it feel like a UFC or a boxing match with those guys coming out with him.
Totally. I didn't see the weigh-in beforehand, but that's another, again, totally sports-like type of thing. That's really awesome. So, yeah.
Yeah, so you had this. So this was kind of cool. At least I dug the hell out of this. DDP, Tommy Dreamer, and Glacier of all people come out to the ring with Cody.
Yeah.
Earl Hebner reffing. I think they wanted to give that like old NWA title match feel by having Earl out there. And thankfully they didn't do some screw job thing with it, which they easily could have done. And then, we can't forget also Pharaoh, the Siberian Nightmare, came out with Cody.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably the most over dog in wrestling since like Matilda.
Pharaoh is fucking over, bro.
Absolutely.
Pharaoh is totally over. Jeff Jarrett, Sean Daivari, and Tim Storm all accompany Aldis to the ring. Tim Storm.
Yeah, are those like those feel like kind of like Minnesota guys? Is that like is Aldis himself a Minnesota guy?
Aldis is British, dude.
Oh no shit, duh. Yeah, I know that. I did know that. Never mind.
Yeah. Is Tim Storm a Minnesota guy?
I'm not sure.
And by the way, everybody, I apologize that I keep coughing and clearing my throat. I might be getting sick. Either that or I just drank too much beer this weekend. One of the two. Kind of amounts to the same thing.
I've still got some residual chest congestion from last week myself, so yeah, I feel you.
So this was a pretty. I know this was an awesome match, man. This was a and so. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
I know. I was just gonna say, like, it had, it had some kind of, I don't know if almost stally type of moments would be the right word, but some different stuff involved, but it still didn't take away it by any means.
It was paced properly. So this isn't, you got to kind of think about different kinds of wrestling, right? So if you watch like a Kenny Omega title match, especially like Omega and Okada, you're getting like a really specific sort of thing, right? And that's not what this is. This is like a very classic big show American wrestling match is what this is.
Yeah. Like, just with the run-ins and everything, but they don't really, you're afraid with stuff like that it would detract from the match itself, but it didn't. So, yeah.
A run-in in a match like this is okay, so long as it's not involved in the finish. If it's part of the story, cool. I just don't want to see that shit with the finish. It can happen at the right time, but yeah. And actually, you can use finishes like that to set up stuff later in the feud, to like set up to like a no DQ or a cage match or whatever. But for this, which is essentially not really the blow off, but it was kind of the blow off, right?
Yeah.
You don't want that to be. You want it to be a clean win. What I was gonna say is, Cody ends up getting wiped out, diving out to the floor. Cody's bloody. Hebner looks like he's gonna stop the match. DDP and Daivari both run down. Like, Daivari jumps in the ring or whatever, and he's stirring some shit up. I tell you what, dude, DDP can still give that fucking diamond cutter.
Yeah, that was pretty epic.
I mean,
and then, go ahead.
No, the cutter is just one of like it's just such an iconic move in wrestling, and it's just cool looking. And then seeing that again, DDP, who's getting up there, can still give it and make it like look awesome.
Yeah, he was getting up there in 98, 99 when he won his first title. So, and that's 20 years later now. So yeah, but he can still, like you said, he still has that move. It looks nice.
And hey,
yeah. Then there was the other. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, hey, yoga.
Yoga, yes, indeed. Then the other big spot in the match, which was kind of, I don't know if you'd call it controversial, but like when Aldis went for the top rope elbow drop and hit Brandy by accident. I'm guessing. I don't think it was intentional.
No, that
she
was,
got in the way.
That was I don't quite understand the storytelling there, and especially since Cody was the baby face in the match, so I don't totally know what to think of that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just supposed to make Brandy look heroic, for taking a shot, sacrificing herself for her man or whatever. But yeah, somewhat controversial. Like I said, I heard some people who weren't too fond of that, after the fact.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't like that part of it that much, but still, I mean, it was a great match. Cody actually wins with the, I hadn't actually thought of this, but you pointed this out to me. Cody wins with the Brett Davey SummerSlam 92 finish.
Yeah, Aldis goes for a sunset flip and can't quite leverage him over. Cody then grabs a hold of the ankles and sits down on his shoulders for the leverage pin. That's almost one of those cradles that looks, almost unkick-outable.
Well, I think when you have some of these cradle leverage pins, that's what they should look at. I mean, when you're trying to do wrestling like super realistic, that's what they should look like. That you're trapped and you're not getting out of it unless you're like crazy strong or something, or you actually have some like old school carny trick to get out of it.
Yeah. So what you're saying is like the Paradise Lock should be like the epitome of technical wrestling.
Yes, it is. So, my girlfriend Shantae is, I don't know if I should say her name on the air, but I guess nobody knows her last name, so they can't go look her up. But my girlfriend is way into fashion. Like, she actually went to fashion school and stuff like that. And we're sort of we're like chatting up last night about going to I'm going to take a European vacation next year, and she's never been to Europe before. And we're kind of talking about what we want to do, because I'm kind of past the point where I want to do like a lot of the touristy stuff. Like if I'm in Paris, it's cool to go to the Eiffel Tower or whatever. It's really cool to go up to the top, but that's not like I'm not going to do some like bus tour or whatever. I like to go to a city and just like, I like to go to a city. I like to eat. I like to find the breweries, and I like to find the record stores. And then for her, she's sort of like, yeah, I want to go find live music, and I want to go find thrift stores so I can get cool old clothes. So anyway, where I'm going with this is, and you mentioning the Paradise Lock told me about this, I explained Milano AT collection to her last night.
Oh, nice. How did she like pop hard for that or what?
Oh, she popped very hard for that.
Nice.
And she was asking me
Yes.
if he was like a little like if maybe he was a little effeminate, and I'm like, no, you know what? Milano's actually kind of manly, you know.
Oh yeah, totally. So yeah, she and my fiance would probably get along well then, as far as the whole common bond with the fashion is concerned.
We'll
Fashion is concerned.
we'll do a meet and greet at some point.
Indeed.
Hey, so another tangent
Indeed
here
we
for a
shall.
second. The the PS4 version of the new Fire Pro game came out right before I got back to the States. So my first couple days back, I played the shit out of that, and I went through the career mode as a character based on me, and I always end up making you in the game too. But I decided I wanted to do a little bit of a funkier version of you because I normally like do you as like sort of like a dude dressed like a '90s ECW guy, and then basically just make you Mike Elgin. So I came up with a character, and he is called the Dude Child Cider Thompson.
Yeah, please elaborate for the folks out there,
So he is
since he is indeed your creation.
he's a bit of a disciple of Juice Robinson. He has garishly colored tights. He has all the like the enthusiastic chants and workings of the crowd, the yeah babies, and he has a killer left hand.
Yeah, those are all things that I would probably want to do in real life if I was a wrestler. So
And
that works pretty well.
he has frilly boots and tights.
Yes, can't go wrong with some tassels.
So that is Dude Child Cider Thompson. And really in classic Japanese fashion, I stylized it by capitalizing every letter of cider.
Yeah, as you should.
And as I'm thinking it up, I'm trying to think of like doing a play on Juice Robinson. I can't like quite figure it out. And I'm trying to think what's something similar to Juice, right? And actually the phrase just pops into my head is Cider Thompson, and I'm like, oh wait, I can totally base this on Matt.
Well, and I used to work in an apple orchard too, and I used to press cider. So there's layers to this.
Oh shit, there's a lot of layers, gimmicks imitating real life.
Hmm. Although that was a pretty wild job. I ended up getting pretty messy. All the apple pieces and everything all over the place. It was pretty intense work. Not unbearable by any stretch, but just something a little different.
So could you imagine like the 80s WWE style vignettes of you working in the apple orchard?
Oh yeah, it would be up there like it would be on par with the working man Dusty Rhodes.
You know what?
Common character.
I actually wish we weren't 1,000 miles apart because I would totally like set this up and record it and film it.
Film these vignettes for me. Yeah, I'd have to work on the maybe some catchphrases. Perhaps a little bit of an emphatic manner of speaking, but in due time I'd work on it.
Yeah, I got to think because your finisher's a doctor bomb. I got to come up with a clever name for that, something to do like with a press or whatever. But
Yeah, the cider press is almost too easy, but
two
yeah.
on the nose.
Yeah.
So moving on, we have the show's really picking up now. We have Bad Boy Joey Janela taking on Hangman Page in a Chicago street fight.
Yeah, the package before this was pretty interesting as far as I haven't watched Being the Elite, so I don't know. I'm not in on all the jokes, unfortunately. But yeah, this was a rather interesting little highlight package highlighting the scenes from that going in. So,
By the way, you actually really do need to watch Being the Elite.
do I need to like start from the beginning, or can I just jump in currently, or watch just some recent stuff?
I can just jump in.
Okay, yeah. If that's the case, I'll just subscribe to them on YouTube and keep up with the current stuff.
No, I mean those guys are so entertaining, and it's not just obviously you got the Bucks on there, and Kenny Skrull is amazing on it. Hangman's on there. SoCal United's on it. Jay Lethal, Lanny Poffo. It's just cool and it's a lot of fun, and it's like it's basically it's the quote unquote sports entertainment part of the Bucks and Cody and Kenny thing. It's like they're doing like their entertainment sketches, but they're not doing it as a part of it's a wrestling show without wrestling, but they're doing it like off in a corner somewhere. So for those of us that actually just want to watch the wrestling.
That's pretty cool. I can get behind that. Yeah, I'm sure it's entertaining because people seem to like it, so it's pretty popular.
I mean, it put the phrase famous dick wrestler Joey Ryan into the lexicon.
And for that contribution alone, it's totally worth it, I'm sure.
And the fact that it even got me saying it should tell you something. So,
yeah, that's remarkable stuff.
So actually, yeah, one of the stories that they're telling here in this match is that Hangman Page had killed Joey Ryan, and then that Hangman is like slowly descending into madness, and his boots are talking to him.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. I killed him with a telephone, I guess.
Yeah.
Just bludgeoned Joey Ryan to death with a telephone. Yeah.
And I guess they were actually going to pay this off sooner than they did, and then when it started becoming that like All In was going to be a thing, they actually held on to this angle for a long time to pay it off.
That's cool. I didn't know that was the case.
Yeah, Joey was talking about that on Observer the other day.
Nice. Well, they picked a good moment to conclude it because to me it was kind of one of the highlights of the show. It's one of the things I'll remember about it thinking back to it.
So was this your first go around with Joey Janela?
Yes, indeed. I'd heard that obviously the Joey Janela Spring Break events that he's been doing on WrestleMania weekends is probably what he's most famous for. So I'd heard about that, but obviously I've never attended one, and not even seen one of his matches. So this was my introduction to him. I figured he'd have to have something, some kind of wild gimmick going on because he kind of looked unremarkable during his entrance. It's kind of like this dude with kind of a dad bod and just walking out and looking like a, I don't know. I mean the Spring Break name makes sense because he looks like kind of like a party boy or whatever. And I figured he had to have something special going on for him to have such a claim. So he really showed it with that.
He looks like a dad bod version of one of the Rockers.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
By the way, so when I saw him the Thursday after All In, so less than a week later, as I just mentioned earlier, he wrestled Filthy Tom. Dude, he was still just beat to fucking shit, man. Like beat up bad.
I bet this was quite a match, as far as the different wild spots that they incorporated throughout.
So Hangman ends up going over here. They did so. There was obviously some chicanery during the match, which we don't necessarily need to get into all of that. But the finish of the match was, and this is one of those please don't die moments, is a rite of passage off of a ladder through a table.
Yeah. That was wild. I didn't know if they'd be able to pull something like that off, but I figured that, once they both ascended that ladder, and it's not a ladder match, and there's a table right there next to it, I figured that somebody had to be going through those tables in some dramatic fashion. So that was pretty wild, risky stuff for sure.
So Maddie, tell us about what happened after the match.
I think they can be summed up in 2 words: penis druids.
Even like the video of like dead Joey laying there getting hard, it was just sort of like, what the fuck, man.
He should almost have like Joey Ryan's like erection should have probably given like its own promo, like the dead man coming back, because they were doing that whole Undertaker theme, like, Joey Janela, I have risen. I don't know, some like awful, erection pun. So, oh well. Res erected.
Yeah. Hangman Page. I was down, but now I have risen and I'm standing tall.
Yeah. Res erected.
I have been resurrected.
Yeah, and then so the penis druids, they carried. No, they didn't carry him. He just walked out by himself. But yeah, they carried Paige to the back afterwards, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Joey Ryan does a dick flip. He kind of nasty. At least it grossed me out. Yeah, he takes his lollipop and puts it in Paige's mouth, just because who has any idea where that mouth has been?
Well, yeah. So I mean, he actually. So what I can't remember if he did it here, but like on at wrestling shows, Joey will actually pull a lollipop out of his trunks and stick it in their mouth and super kick them.
Oh,
That's actually like his finisher.
wow, that's something a little different.
No, so when you actually typical Joey Ryan, he comes out with that lollipop in his mouth and he gives it to somebody in the crowd. And actually, my dude Chase was begging for it from Joey this past this Thursday before last when we were at the MLW show, and somebody right by us got it, and Chase was like, "Wow, I should have stood up and maybe would have got it." Chase is a big guy, so if he would have stood up, Joey would have seen him and he would have got a Joey Ryan. We got a Joey Ryan lollipop in his mouth, and you're right. Who fucking knows where that mouth has been?
Yeah, or that anything on that anatomy, as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, I used to sit and roll my. I basically had probably like the Jim Cornette reaction to it or whatever, and then it's sort of like, dude, you know what? This guy has figured out a thing that works for him. He can go do an indie spot somewhere. And he basically doesn't work at all. He just it has a whole spot built around, a whole match built around those spots.
Mm-hmm.
He's getting paid, and he's not killing himself, and the crowd loves it. So that's like a win all around,
Yeah, totally. And he looks like a sleazeball. So the King of Sleaze kind of moniker really works well. That's a great gimmick for him. So as long as he can work that, then more power to him.
So up next, we have ROH world title match, Jay Lethal versus Flip Gordon. Flip made it on the show. Flip made it on the show because he was in the over the budget battle royal.
Yeah, something along those lines. Yeah.
So he was, and apparently I've been heard people call this the best traditional battle royal they've ever seen. Wow. Apparently, and I've kind of heard this, I think, from maybe listening to Meltzer or somebody, that the San Francisco territory used to do battle royals all the time, and apparently those were good, but I've never seen a good battle royal in my lifetime. So,
yeah, as far as a traditional one, yeah, you're absolutely right.
And the Royal Rumbles are almost are consistently always really, really good. They traditionally have been. But anyway, so Flip came out in that battle royal on the pre-show as Chico El Luchador, and he gets.
I think he was El Hijo de Chico.
Oh, he did. I actually thought he was El Chico. Okay, I thought he was actually just Chico. But he comes out. He actually ends up getting laid out outside of the ring. So it's one of those. It's like the whole Roman Reigns laying outside of the ring for 20 minutes thing. And he actually ends up coming back in the end. And I think it was Bully that he eliminated, but it might not have been. But that
sounds right. Yeah.
That's how Flip ended up making the match. He got on the he got in the card. He got to face Jay Lethal, and he had Brandy Rhodes come out to the ring with him, which is A-okay.
Yeah. Yeah, no complaints there. And she, worked well into the match as well, as far as the story of it with our champion here.
So yeah, Lethal comes out to Pomp and Circumstance. Apparently that jacket that he had, he comes out with this black fringe jacket that was apparently one of Randy Savage's, and that was, I think, I heard somebody say that was the jacket that he wore on his debut in WCW.
Yeah, I think Riccaboni or Excalibur brought that up, one of the announcers.
And then who came out with him?
None other than the genius himself, Leapin' Lanny Poffo, who is Randy Savage's brother, for those who may not know. So that's pretty huge deal.
So to give a little background, and this is part of this is on being the Elite, and I don't watch quite every week, so I don't know the full story. But basically, years and years ago in TNA, Jay Lethal was doing the character Black Machismo, and Jay Lethal does a dead-on Randy, everything, even the movements and the facial expressions, the sort of the insane twitchiness that Randy Savage had about him.
Yeah, the mannerisms, yeah, everything was all on point.
And so there's this whole thing where basically, like, if Jay gets slapped on the shoulder, he changes personalities between Jay and Machismo.
Yeah,
So
and
he
that's what happened during this match. Yeah.
so he's coming out as Savage, and he's like he's kind of shifts back and forth. But early on in the match, and you were just sort of hinting at this. So Lethal does the whole thing where he gets out of the side of the ring and he grabs Brandy and like carries her over and places her in his corner, and then does like that whole like that weird aggressive Savage point because he thinks it's Elizabeth.
Right. And then later on, he's chasing her around, and they get in the ring, and he picks her up on his shoulder. He picks Brandy up on his shoulder like Savage did. I think that was that SummerSlam when he was tagging with Hogan. Then he lifts her up and picks her up on just his one shoulder.
Yeah. Well, there was also the time that Hogan did that too, and Hogan's like that they set up the Mega Powers exploding.
Right. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
And by the way, Hogan totally deserved that because he was clearly macking on Randy's woman. He was a little gropey with Elizabeth.
Yeah, I was always on Savage's side as far as that feud went.
Yeah, it's just and now that we know after the sex tape came out, Hulk has no problem banging someone else's woman.
Yeah, let's not go there.
So, what'd you think of this match?
I think it was great. I think that that little play back and forth between Machismo and regular old Jay Lethal was lots of fun. I think that it also leaves for more to be desired as far as these two hooking up in just a straightforward match, which I think is cool. You don't have to give away everything in one match, and you can come back and do something with a little bit more gravitas later on. This wasn't a main event of a show, so it can be a little bit more playful and whatnot. So, yeah, it was really good for what it was.
And by the way, I think this shows that you can actually do big time wrestling and be like a little silly and goofy about it, which, I mean, the Bucks are obviously like kind of ironic wrestlers anyway. That you can do this and you can not like degrade your product and still have some fun with it, and then you can still do the serious matches later, like you said. Obviously you have like Yano in New Japan where they do the silly matches, but you don't necessarily do like he's not in big matches, right? This is obviously a big match, and they had some fun with it. So I mean, you don't have to do like super serious wrestling all the time. You can do you can do the silly shit, for the lack of a better term.
Yeah, and there's no problem with that. So that was fun. I loved the moment where Lethal hits the 3 elbow drops off the top, which also looked really, really damn good. As far as looking like Savage, like they were pretty authentic as well. So he does that, and then Flip kicks out and starts hulking up and all that fun stuff. So that was pretty great too. And then after Lethal goes over, there's the angle afterwards with Bully Ray, and eventually Colt Cabana comes out and saves the day.
Which is Colt's in his hometown, and actually I enjoyed after they do the Shield power bomb on Bully. Colt actually pops, but like just kind of randomly walks by the announce table and sort of jumps in and talks a little bit. That's another like really New Japan, they actually do that a decent amount, but that's another like sort of old school wrestling thing that I kind of dig, because it's like it's probably planned, but it feels like not scripted to have like the guy out of breath that just ran out to save somebody, and he stops at the announce table to cut a quick promo. To me it adds that a good wrestling show, I think, should always feel like it's about ready to fly off the rails, because the competitors are just like these fucking crazed outlaws that can't really be controlled by like a governing body or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you have fighters like that in real shoot sports. You got like the Diaz brothers and guys who wouldn't be afraid to do that type of shit in a real fight situation. So, why wouldn't these guys in a shoot or in an organized kayfabe fight do the same type of thing?
Yeah. Yeah, you could totally see some honestly, the Diaz brothers should be wrestlers, but anyway. They're
That'd be dope. I would love to see Nate Diaz put like Dolph Ziggler in a Go-Go Plata and just wreck his whole world.
I wonder if Chael plans on going into wrestling at some point. He's getting up there though, so he probably doesn't really have enough years to do it. Because
He'd be a fantastic manager though.
Chael just seems like such a natural. Honestly, I think one of the things you're going to see a lot over the next
Dude. Fucking Chael Son and managing heel Roman Reigns. That has a license to print money.
Oh wow, dude! I was just actually thinking for American shows, Chael managing Suzuki.
Yeah, that too. That would be dope. For sure.
I think over the next 20 years you're gonna see two distinct kind of wrestlers coming into professional wrestling. You're gonna have the Kenny Omegas, the guys that are like wrestlers that are not fighters in any way, shape, or form. And for all I know, Kenny might be able to actually like put a whipping on somebody, but Kenny's like a wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're gonna see, but you're gonna see a lot of fighters coming into wrestling too, because I think fighters adapt to it so easily. Suzuki's the best example, but Suzuki's been doing it his whole life. But I think like Ronda and Shayna, Filthy Tom actually wrestled way in the past, but I just think it's a great place for wrestling promotions in general to be getting talent, because I mean, I don't know, man. You know a little bit of judo, and you know a little bit of Muay Thai. That's gonna help. They're gonna go a long way to helping you put something together in the ring. You still got to learn to work or whatever, but it's a good start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it gives you that base for sure. As long as you can figure out how to sell and how to do a promo, then I think you're pretty well set.
Like, dude, Shayna Baszler still green as hell, and Shayna Baszler is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Actually, on a side note, it's actually fairly cool that all of the four horsewomen of MMA are in wrestling now.
Yeah, that's an interesting little turn, for sure.
So I'm sure at some point, and maybe that Survivor Series this year, they will do the four horsewomen versus the four horsewomen.
Yeah, it's bound to happen somewhere down the road.
So let's move forward here. This is now the show's starting to get really serious. We have, and this is so awesome. This is one of those dream matchups that as a kid you would have talked about. You're like a big wrestling nerd, like both of us were. Kenny Omega versus Pento El Cerro M.
Yeah. What can you say about this and try to, cover it in a somewhat timely manner? I mean, you could do a whole hour talking about all the crazy shit that happened in this match.
So let me just say this. I love Penta. I fucking love Penta, dude.
Yeah, that was my first time seeing him as well. And he, and as far as a character as well, he's got everything down. You expect the work to be there as far as him, having all this hype coming in, but he lived up to it in every sense.
Yeah, and he's Lucha is one of those things that's sort of off in its own corner of the wrestling world. And what I think we're really starting to see is that the best guys that Lucha has to offer, and we kind of see this out of like Dragon Lee and Volador and those guys in Japan. But the best that the Lucha has to offer can hang with the best that the more what we quote unquote more traditional wrestling produces. Because you get Penta can go in there and hang with Kenny Omega, who's possibly the top guy in the business right now.
Yeah, those guys who can kind of cross over and adapt are the ones who really they just tend to be amazing workers, and they also have their characters down as well, and they know they know their lane, and they stick to it.
It's interesting. So this match, they kind of just came out, big dick balls out to start this match, spot, and then they actually settled down into a wrestling match then.
Yeah, as much as you can settle in with two guys like this, but yeah.
Relatively speaking, have you noticed? And and I think we've talked about this on a previous episode. Kenny, now that he's champion, is a little heelish.
Yeah, he's got this arrogance about him for sure. Um, like he's yeah, very very proud champion, and that goes beyond just being like a valiant fighter and having a little bit of an ego about him.
Well, there's one promo that he did recently, where he said that he represents professional wrestling now.
Yeah. So if that's the angle he's taken, where he legit feels that way, then he's gonna have to step up the ego a little bit.
And then he was actually against Ishii. He was totally playing the heel and leading up to that match against Ishii. Some of the shit he was saying about him.
Yeah, and during the match as well, especially in the early going.
Yeah, indeed. So I mean, I don't know if there's any high points you want to hit with this match. I mean, it's hard to break something down like this to 2 or 3 points. But man, that fucking package pile driver on the apron, that's one of those where I'm watching that through my eyes.
Yeah, that one and the one that Omega hit in the ring where it was like a spinning package pile driver. That one was brutal as well. Those are the two biggest takeaways for me from this match.
And then they did a fairly decent job. Omega basically broke Penna's arm, and then Penna kept actually did a decent job of selling that through the rest of the match.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, Omega goes over with the One Wing Angel, and then the dad at the frat party decided to make a grand entrance.
That's how you're referring to Jericho these days.
Yeah. I mean, I love him. I love what he's doing right now. But between having the shirt with the Young Bucks and being the elite and shoehorning his way into this event, he's just totally that guy.
I think
the dad at the frat party.
I think shoehorning is it feels a little bit judgmental, but I hear you. I've been a Jericho fan for 20 plus years now, and obviously you know this, but you also know that I find him cringy as well. So I hear you, because he's
Yeah.
Jericho is immensely talented, immensely hardworking. He's also a tryhard. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the best way to put it.
but yeah, so lights go out. Lights come back on. Penta standing. Code breaker. It's Chris Jericho. He unmasks. Later that night, Jericho had a Fozzy show in, I believe, Kansas City, and hit the stage with the Penta makeup still on.
That's a nice effect. If you're gonna do it, you might as well go all out, right? And I love Jericho's one line after the attack.
I'll see you on the cruise.
Yeah, that's such an ominous and threatening.
Well, it's interesting
So,
that they're putting him and the Bucks up against. I think it's Kenny, Skrull, and someone else.
Yeah,
Someone else.
maybe Hangman.
Yeah, it might be, because it's 3 Bullet Club guys against the Bucks of Jericho, or whatever the hell they call it. Anyway, Y2 Jackson. It's a very special match for the cruise. That's like you get to go on the cruise, so that's what you get to see, which is brilliant from Jericho. Kayfabing it for a moment, though, it doesn't make any sense having the Bucks take on Kenny, but it is what it is. I'm thinking about it too much.
Yeah. Well, and also doing the one-on-one match and having the big, highly anticipated Jericho Omega rematch be just on this cruise ship on this one-off show is, it kind of shows like, that maybe they're hurting for some cabins getting booked up. That they're booking that this late in the state and in the game.
It's not sold out, but I mean, cruises are expensive, and the thing is, it's like, cruises are priced in such a way where they're encouraging you not to go alone, that they're trying to put multiple people in a room, and to like book a room on your own gets like really expensive. So
yeah,
and then it's
makes sense.
And then it's also fuck, dude, it's smack dab in the middle of hurricane season. So
No shit, I didn't even think of that. Wow.
Well, and normally that wouldn't be a thing, but we're gonna have we're gonna have like a few crazy hurricane seasons. I mean, I think Last week there were like 5 active name storms at the same time in the Atlantic.
Wow.
There was actually a Hurricane Joyce, and the reason I bring that up because my mom's name is Joyce.
No shit, I didn't know that either.
Yeah,
Yeah, wow. That's wild. I didn't know that that was to that extent.
yeah. It's. Again, I apologize, everyone. Like I said, I think I'm getting sick, so but I'm powering through it for the wrestling fans of the world. So up next we had Marty Scurll and Kazuchika Okada. This is, I mean, dude, two of the best wrestlers in the world. Okada probably is the best wrestler in the world. Scurll is, Scurll's awesome. And I love he's doing the little thing where he's pretending to be like a heavyweight or whatever.
Hmm. Yeah, he that leads to one of the more memorable moments from the match where Okada sets Marty up in the Rainmaker position, and then he does the numbers 205 with his hand, just to
Yeah.
just lay that taunt in. I felt like that was Okada bringing a little extra sauce for the American market. I kind of liked that. But did you listen? I don't know if you listen to JR's podcast very often these days.
I
He
I
was
I can't handle JR anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, in typical JR fashion, he was pretty scathing about this just because he felt like, and maybe I don't know if somebody had told him this, but I think he kind of insinuated that somebody had told him this, that Okada was just feeling himself a little bit too much and needed to get his shit in, and it was to the detriment of the show, and therefore he was like kind of salty and pissy about that.
Well, okay, so there's rumors that this match did run several minutes long. Although then I heard Squirrel come back and say that they did run long, but it was only 4 minutes and not 15 minutes.
Okay.
So yeah, it did. And there's Hangman. I think Hangman and Joey went over, and then the Amel Daniels match was too long, and they shouldn't have done the MJF match on the main card. Listen,
Agreed. Yeah.
in all seriousness, for a second, it did cut the the Bucks main event short, but if you're like really tuned into wrestling, you could tell that they cut it short. I don't know that the average fan would pick up on that. Number one, and number two, dude, it's Kazuchika Okada, and he's following Kenny Omega, his big rival. I mean, nobody constructs a match better than Okada does. I'm going to give him a little bit of slack on this one.
Yeah, I don't see it being this huge deal either. I just thought that it was interesting that one of the guys who's supposed to be calling New Japan would trash one of the talents that badly.
Well, JR openly trashes the product. I mean,
Yeah, it's not inconsistent with his character, but it's still really shitty.
It's one of those things where the G1 special, I get JR being upset. Obviously, he broke his ribs. I get him being upset. I get actually Barnett going after White was a great moment. That's like great TV, right? But
Yeah, totally. That was
those
awesome.
those two are openly shit talking the New Japan product, and
Mhm.
unless Barnett is coming back to work, I don't see the point of it. And yeah, I think it's actually super fucking inappropriate. And I'm sure JR is getting paid a lot of money to do this, and yeah, I don't like it. I just. You know what? Here, let me phrase it another way. Kevin Kelly's the best commentator in wrestling right now.
That's very feasible.
And let me be clear. I think he is better than Mauro Ranallo, and the reason that I say that is because Mauro has to use WWE speak, and I can't listen to that anymore.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a 2-horse race. They've both surpassed JR for sure.
Tommaso Ciampa is not a sports entertainer. Tommaso Ciampa is a fucking pro wrestler.
Yeah, and of course that's not Ronaldo's fault, but yeah, it still detracts.
Okay, here let me add one more note to that. Then I actually think Michael Cole, left to his own devices, would be a really damn good wrestling announcer because I've heard him within the last 5 years do so, but he's not because of how he's produced. And that's why I say that Morrow loses some points because of how he's produced. And that's why Kevin Kelly, in my mind, is better than him.
Yeah, yeah, I totally get that.
So, yeah. So, anything you want to go into about this match?
Um, I mean, no, it's if you've seen, some of Okada's great work, like kind of what to expect from a match like this. Skrull really held up his end as far as I figured he would, but just being his first kind of high profile heavyweight match, he still did his thing and didn't take away from it at all. He did awesome.
Yeah, yeah, he did. And they both got their they both got their spots in. And I don't mean that in like a negative way. You got the stuff that you want to see from those guys in.
Hmm. Yeah, totally. So yeah, Okada goes over, hits a discus rainmaker, and another traditional rainmaker for the win. Um, yeah, so that's to be expected. Skrull's not quite on that level yet, so it's kind of almost a Japanese type of booking where maybe eventually he'll get on that level, but for now he's just kind of starting out, so it makes sense for him to lose.
I guess maybe it's one of those things in like 2 or 3 years. You'll have Okada and Skrull in a big main event, and then this is something is like you can kind of a little throwback to it. Like there's actually a somewhere in the WWE archives there is a Randy Savage Shawn Michaels world title match from when on Randy's last title reign.
Yeah, I think that might be on one of the Savage DVDs too, because I think I remember seeing that.
And then like a couple years later, Shawn's a champion. I don't know if you knew this. Savage actually wanted to do a program with Michaels to like really get him over.
Yeah, right around the time that he was leaving WWE, WWF, because they were kind of done with him as a top guy. Yeah.
And that's why that's one of the reasons he left is because, like, dude, could you imagine young Shawn Michaels, like Shawn at the beginning of his world title phase, and veteran Macho Man having a feud?
Yeah, and that would have been tremendous, and that's awesome of Savage to want to be that veteran who puts the younger guys over, in a big way like that. That would have been an amazing program. It's unfortunate that it didn't ever come to fruition.
Yeah, that is let's some alternate reality booking, and obviously it doesn't work out this way because if Savage doesn't go to WCW, then that kind of affects like the rise of Stone Cold and whatever. But can you imagine Savage Savage '98 was like kind of roided out, but can you imagine like '98 Savage and '98 Stone Cold having a feud?
That would have been epic.
Because I mean, hell, actually, I think you look at like Savage and DDP and kind of
I was gonna say that's around the same time. Yeah, that kind of would have been the analog for it. Yeah.
and but you get a guy like Steve Austin who can like work his ass off and call a match, and you could just there's so many ways that you could work that because you could have either one of them be the unhinged heel.
Hmm. Yeah, and you could also have kind of what was in vogue at the time have kind of a ambiguity as far as who was the face and heel.
Yeah, I think
What?
though I think one of them would have been like clearly the guy though, and
Yeah.
honestly, I think Savage just looked so fucking insane by that point that that Stone Cold would have had to have been the face in that one.
And that'd have been the more natural move as well. I agree.
But you could have done like a headlined like a SummerSlam or something with that. Anyway,
Oh, totally.
enough of me dreaming. Let's talk the main event.
Yeah. Awesome. Trios match, 6-man match with the Young Bucks teaming up with Kota Ibushi to take on Bandito, Rey Fenix, and Rey Mysterio.
Had you ever seen Bandito before?
No, I had not.
He was on one.
Nor have I ever seen Fenix either.
So I actually saw Ray at the MLW show last week. I obviously I kind of said it, but you know that's Penta's brother, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I figured. Yeah, I saw Bandito the first G1 specials, the ones in Long Beach summer of last year. So that was my first exposure to Bandito. And I was like, one of the things I was digging is that I loved the mask.
Yeah, all these guys in this match had awesome presentations as far as the look, the get up, the characters. Um, yeah,
And then
I can dig that.
and Ray's Wolverine costume.
Yeah, that was straight up dope. As well as what the Young Bucks new entrance theme. What do you think of that? I think it's pretty great. It's got a pretty sick little riff to it.
I actually, you know what, I got to hear it again because that was in the midst of me watching. That was in the midst of my my Whirlwind World Tour.
Okay.
Yeah. So
They debuted it when they were on Talk is Jericho, so I heard it first there, and I was like, "Oh, this is pretty cool." Like they played it like in its entirety. It's like a 3-minute version of the theme song. It opens with like a kind of shreddy, almost kind of reminds me of like "Am I Evil?" Like the beginning
Nice.
little.
nice.
So
nice,
it kind of
nice.
sounds like that, and then it goes into a cool riff, and it's got like kind of almost like an electronic sounding like rhythm section to it. So it's kind of dancey, and it sounds like a pretty sick little catchy guitar riff in there.
Dancy and Riffy both got it. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah,
So this is
pretty catchy stuff.
this is a really frantic match because I think they had to cut it down to like nearly a third of what its original length should have been, or definitely less than half of what it should have been. Really, sort of the cool holy shit moment was Ibushi and Ray stepping in the ring together, and then just the crowd freaking the fuck out.
Yeah, it's almost like like the indie worker version of like The Rock and Hogan in the ring at the same time,
Yeah,
standing across the ring from each other.
yeah, that's just so many cool spots in this match. Like Matt catching the 619 from Ray, and Ray finally hitting
Yeah,
the 619 shortly after that.
yeah. Bandito doing that, like I think it was Bandito did like that. What would you want to call it? Almost like a trapeze artist, walking the tightrope type of deal. That was pretty intense.
That's always
So
crazy when I see guys walking the ropes.
yeah,
But yeah, the Bucks end up going over with a super rushed Meltzer driver at the end, and they basically they went up to the absolute last second of satellite time that they had.
yeah, they were in the middle of the, whatever the close of the show, like as far as the announcers doing their sign off. Yeah, they were in mid sentence when the stream cut.
So, we kind of at the beginning we gave our thoughts of what we thought of All In, but I mean, there's going to be a 2, right?
I sure as hell hope so. As long as one of those guys, either Cody or the Bucks themselves, as long as one of those acts decides to, stick around, then there should be.
Kind of one of the things I heard was that very much that that Cody was like clearly the dude in charge, and it's the Bucks obviously put a ton of work into this too, but Cody was like the one running the show. And I just got to wonder if, I don't know, I guess a scenario that pops into my head is like Cody and Billy Corgan putting something together to actually put together, if not like some kind of promotion, but to put on recurring super shows.
Yeah, whatever works there, that would be pretty cool, because Corgan has got to have the financial ability to do so.
Yeah. Yeah, and just seeing Cody holding that belt was the same belt that his dad had was kind of awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad that it's still the classic NWA title design. That was pretty special.
Yeah, that made me very happy. So, let's jump ahead here. We got another show to talk about because there was New Japan's back at it again. They had a little bit of a break there for a while post G1. I think we all needed a little bit of a break there for a while after the G1. But immediate withdrawal sets in.
Mm-hmm.
So they've actually been running the Destruction Tour, and basically Destruction peaks with 3 big shows, the first of which was yesterday morning in Hiroshima. There's 2 more coming up, Because basically what they're doing with it is they have like essentially three big main events, and they're breaking them up over the three big shows.
Yeah, and this first show built to the other main events too in the coming shows, so that's pretty cool.
And on top, I was going to say on top of this, there's actually been like a ton of shows coming up, a ton of shows for the past week plus, and we're not really going to dig into that because those are basically the New Japan house shows, the equivalent of like what WWE would do in a house show. So I don't really feel like that there's a ton to talk about there because there's no singles matches at all. It's all the big multi-man matches that you see them do during like in the undercard of the G1 show.
Yeah, I checked on New Japan World too, hoping that maybe they'd have some backstage comments from these previous shows, and they didn't even have any of that stuff posted. So shows you that's really not as significant.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, that's house shows.
Mhm.
So let's jump in and talk about this show. Opening up tag match. Rocky Romero and Sho and Yo taking on Jushin Liger, Kushida, and Tiger Mask.
Yeah, pretty standard fare as far as starting off the show with a junior heavyweight multi-man tag match. Exciting, fast-paced kind of match. You kind of had to figure with Rocky Romero being on the card and not being in the English broadcast booth that he was going to probably eat a pin for his guys, and he did here. It's just interesting that Tiger Mask was the one to go over with the Tiger Suplex. Figured that maybe with Kushida going into the junior heavyweight championship tournament that maybe he would pick up the win, but instead it was Tiger Mask.
That is a good point. I actually I had not thought of that. Rocky has basically become the Western version of Gedo and Jado.
Yeah, absolutely. He's kind of like the liaison for the Gaijin guys out of the States and North America.
Yep. And he's always eating the pin.
Yep, indeed.
So up next, Toa Henare versus Bad Luck Fale. Bro, what do you think of Henare?
I think that pretty green dude, but he's got some good size. He shows some good fire. Kind of a natural baby face as far as that goes. I think that in due time he'll probably be along the lines of a bruiser like a Makabe or one of those guys that New Japan really likes as far as that hard hitting rough neck style.
Yeah, I think he's got a really good upside. Fale, of course, goes over here with a nasty lariat and grenade.
Yeah, pretty short match. Not a whole lot of hope spots as far as Henare goes, but he hit a pretty nice flying forearm off the top, or a flying shoulder tackle, one of the two. But yeah, try his size to go off the top was pretty cool, and it's it's what needed to happen. He's not on that level yet, so.
So next up, KES taking on Elgin and Yoshida. Yoshida being one of the doing one of the young lions. So I noticed you mentioned that Davey looking shredded. So obviously I saw Davey in person a week and a half ago. So first of all, he's not his dad, and thank God for that, right?
Right.
Because his dad was just, although closer to the end, his dad was smaller, but that mid British Bulldog phase, he was way too fucking big. Davey Jr.'s physique, he's like, that is like a largely natural physique. Like the dude's got to take care of himself really well and train his ass off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he looks a lot healthier, for sure, but still looks just fantastic. And the other thing about KES is that Archer didn't do his obnoxious water bottle spitting during his entrance, which I was thankful for.
Yeah, I know. I always get a text from you
for me.
When there's a KES match on, I always get a text from you bitching about that. So I know how much it makes you rage.
Yeah, just such an obnoxious fuck.
So, one of the things they were talking about is the lack of title challenges this year, and actually, the tag G1 makes it seem like this because so much stuff drops off at the map, but the both the junior and the heavyweight tag titles have seemed really dead for a while. Um, so obviously, this is I don't think that God is going to take the title off the Bucks. So I think I think I said earlier in the show the Bucks and Killer Elite Squad are going to have a feud very soon, which I hope is the case because I'm actually really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think that'll be pretty cool. Something different for the Bucks. A little change of pace, and KES are really good really good workers, and they should be able to put on a good match together.
And yeah, the Bucks can just come out and bump their asses off for those guys. They can do totally. They can honestly, they can just come out and be the Rockers.
Yeah, yeah, that would work really well. So yeah, the story was kind of that Killer Elite Squad were kind of full piss and vinegar, and they took it out on Yoshida for most of the match. Elgin comes in, has a bit of a hope spot. Hits a Falcon Arrow on Archer, and Yoshida comes in and hits a couple PKs on Davey Boy. Obviously the young lions have really limited offensive move sets, so that was pretty much all he got offensively in the match. And then Archer hit a choke slam on Yoshida, and KES hit a killer bomb on Yoshida for the win.
And then they beat up Young Lions afterwards, as members of Suzuki Gun are contractually required to do.
Yes, indeed. So pretty standard fare. Pretty basic stuff. Just putting KES over for future plans.
So up next, 6-man tag. It's you got Bullet Club versus Chaos. So you've got Kota Ibushi, who seems to be like fully embedded with Bullet Club Elite now, and Chase Owens and Yujiro. It's so nice to see Yujiro back in the ring. Although, yeah, he wasn't on the G1 shows, was he? Because I don't remember seeing him for a long time.
I don't recall. I don't think so.
Yeah, or maybe I just wasn't paying close enough. Anyway, I'm a big fan of Yujiro. And they're taking on the best friends, Beretta and Chucky T. And they're joined by Will Ospreay.
Yeah, the friend of the best friends. There was some pretty cool moments between he and Ibushi. Kind of makes you really want to see those two go at it one-on-one. That would be totally epic. They tease it just enough here to get the juices flowing for that.
I think maybe you give Ospreay one last run with the junior title, and then I don't know who you kind of hand off to. He passes the torch to. Ospreay needs to be a heavyweight.
Yeah, that would be totally epic. I agree.
But anyway, give a quick rundown of the match.
Sure. So, probably the biggest spot early on is just Kota Ibushi entering the ring. When he finally comes in, he gets a big crowd from the pop, or a big pop from the crowd rather. Wow. And then all he really does is put some boots to Chucky T and then tag Owens back in. So just kind of teasing that later on. There's a really cool moment where Ospreay hits this, like he does a handspring and then into like almost a corkscrew Pele kick. Just that crazy athleticism. And Ibushi eats it and comes right back with a lariat that just like completely rocks Ospreay's world. Just takes him right out. The Ospreay hits this really bitchin' handspring, crazy dive to the floor, and that sets up for Beretta and Chucky T to hit a sort of a modified strong zero. Beretta does the Dude Buster, and Chucky T comes off the top with a double stomp onto Chase Owens' ass to spike the Dude Buster, and that's how they pick up the win. Owens, of course, being the worst member of the Bullet Club, eats the pin here.
And by the way, Chase Owens has a very ample ass. I don't even know that stomping on it would do any good.
Fair enough, yeah. I guess it provides a little bit of leverage to spike the head, but oh well.
So up next. Oh, by the way, I actually want to say something. Ibushi. For being like a pretty boy baby face, he is fucking vicious. Like he hurt. Like it looks like he's actually probably is hurting people sometimes. But he really looks like he's hurting people sometimes with like his strikes and his lariats and stuff.
Totally.
Up next, we have a match for the Never Openweight Six-Man Championship. It's Taguchi Japan, who at the moment is Ryosuke Taguchi, David Finlay, and Juice Robinson. So two of your boyfriends are in this match, taking on Ishimori and Gorillas of Destiny.
Yeah, I guess rugby season is in full swing in Japan right now, and to sort of celebrate the occasion, Taguchi Japan come out tossing a rugby ball around. They all have their rugby jerseys on, and Taguchi is even going as far as to wear a rugby helmet.
And, of course, next week on the Fix, Todd Martin's going to bitch about this, but I popped so hard for that.
Yeah, it was fun stuff. It's all in good fun. And of course, it comes into play later on in the match as well. Taguchi, eats a pair of headbutts from the God guys, and another one of those crazy flipping handspring Pele kicks that Ishimori throws at him, and he's immune to all of it because his rugby helmet's on. Sort of stretching the limits of that kind of sports like stuff, taking it to a wholly different level, but still all in good fun.
Did you ever play Punch Out on the Wii?
On the Wii, no.
Okay, so the version on the Wii was amazing, and they actually need to do a re-release of it for the Switch. But so in the game, like you go through the whole game and you beat everybody and you win the title, then you go back through the circuit again. And when you fight everybody a second time, they've basically they get upgrades to figure out how to combat you. And actually, when you come out and fight Glass Joe again, he's actually got headgear on. Like a typical head protection that you'd see somebody wearing sparring, and you actually have to if you punch him in the head, it doesn't hurt him at all, and he basically stands there and laughs at you. So you have to I don't know if you have to pop him with a star punch or something, but you basically got to do something so the mask flies up off of his head, and every time you punch him, it just sort of springs up. So that reminded me of Glass Joe with his headgear on.
Nice. Yeah, it's a pretty nice little comparison there. So yeah, later on in the match, Tama rips the helmet off of Taguchi and gun stuns him, and then Finley runs in and hits a stunner on Tama Tonga. Then Finley rolls up Tonga Loa for 2 and goes for a stunner on him as well, but Tonga Loa blocks it and hits a Rikishi driver that he has a rather colorful name for.
Eat shit.
Eat shit, yes. Firing squad pick up the victory with eat shit.
Lovely. Up next, we have a tag match setting up a title match later in the tour. You have Suzuki-gun consisting of Taichi, Kanemaru, and Iizuka taking on Chaos, so Goto, Yano, and Geto. Goto is facing Taichi. Taichi's challenging him for the never openweight title. Why the fuck that's happening, I don't know.
Apparently, he's catching on with the Japanese audience. At least that's what the English commentary makes it sound like.
I guess. I just can't fucking stand him.
Yeah, me either. So yeah, the biggest thing that I thought was great about this match is that Iizuka now comes out with the Hannibal Lecter mask on. So he is supposed to be the savage, just can't stop biting people to the point where he needs protection to do that, to prevent that rather. And yet he will still break for a referee's 4 count.
Lovely.
That's one where I have to draw the line just a little bit.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Not a lot. DQ again. The Chaos goes over DQ on Suzuki-gun. This is just to set up Taichi and Goto. I think we need to spend any more time on that.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I need to get at with that.
Next, we have another Suzuki-gun match. We've got Suzuki, Zack Sabre Jr., Taka Michinoku, and El Desperado taking on LIJ.
Yeah. Little fun bit for this match was that there was a really cool carp graphic for the baseball team, the Hiroshima Carp, of which Tetsuya Naito was a big fan. So they had that on the Titantron during the entrance. Naito comes out with his carp T-shirt. Pretty cool little cross promotion there, and fans seem to really pop for it.
Nice. It is cool.
Yeah. So this whole match really centers around building the feud between Suzuki and Naito, and I gotta say that this really got me pumped to see their matchup because Suzuki is just being Suzuki, being being a totally sadistic fuck and just enjoying torturing Naito way too much.
Yeah, I've said it before. Minoru Suzuki is the most evil man on the planet.
Totally. And with his mentorship, ZSJ probably won't be too far behind.
Now, ZSJ just sort of seemed like a little mean before, but ZSJ has developed a serious nastiness about him, which really works for his character.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
So yeah. Anyway, this was basically here to set up, like you said, Naito and Suzuki. Basically, Naito got the shit beat out of him.
Yeah, some pretty brutal looking stuff. There at one point, Suzuki has a sleeper hold on Naito. He's Suzuki standing on the apron and hanging Naito over it, so it just looks like he's legit hanging him. It's just brutal shit. Just staring at him after the fact and just sort of basking in his own destruction. It's just so Suzuki and just so brutal.
What's interesting about Naito? He obviously has all the cool heel stuff that he does because he's just such kind of a standoffish prick. But God, that dude sells like a babyface. Like I absolutely love Naito selling, especially like him and Jericho.
Yeah. Well, if you get into the point where you're making like grown women in the audience like weep and like legit come to emotional moments due to your selling, then yeah, you're really really damn good at it.
And well, I saw him at the CEO show back in the summer, and he took he kind of took a serious suplex, and I mean he sold in the way. I mean, we thought he was dead.
Yeah, I believe it.
So the medics try to stretcher out Naito after the match, but he refuses and walks to the back with help from Bushi. So it leads us to another six-man tag, setting up another upcoming main event. So this is Okada, Jay White, and Yoshihashi taking on Tanahashi, Hanma, and Makabe. I know you're not a fan, but I think it's good to see Hanma back, being not necessarily back in that he maybe shouldn't wrestle again, but it's good to see him healthy again. This is all about setting up Tanahashi and Okada for the G1 briefcase.
Yeah, and it's also setting up a lot of dissension between the Chaos guys.
Yeah, because Jay White's fucking prick.
Yeah, he's really not ingratiating himself very well. And Yoshihashi was pissed at Okada after the match too.
Yeah, well, fuck Yoshihashi though.
Yeah, well, and when they showed Yoshihashi leaving, Tana was looking on like, sort of sympathetically. So I don't know if that sort of teasing that maybe Yoshihashi will align himself with Tanahashi at some point too.
Well, Tanahashi already said that he wanted to do something. It was with Yoshihashi, and then there was one other person that he said he wanted to work with, and I can't remember who that is.
I think Sonata. It was one of the LIJ. It was one of the LIJ guys. I want to say. I think it was Sonata.
Well, anyway, so they've set up that Yoshihashi's going to leave. I actually suspect Chaos is just going to disintegrate.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's going to be not too far down the road either.
Chaos has been around for a very. I mean, Chaos was was Shinsuke's thing. has been around for a really long time, and it can go ahead and dissolve, and you can kind of break off into some. You can break out some new factions from that.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I think that'll be beneficial.
so we for the main event, we have the much anticipated Kenny Omega and Tomohiro Ishii match for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. This is, of course, set up in the G1, where Ishii just beat the ever living shit out of Omega. Actually, left him bloodied, and they were sort of selling that story as that loss against Ishii wrecked the tournament for Omega because he had 2 more losses after that.
Yeah, that kind of set him on a downward spiral, sort of, towards the end of that tournament. Yeah, this match kind of shows how Omega responded to that too, coming out and showing a little bit of desperation, trying to throw lots of V triggers right from the get go, getting pissed off because he can't shoulder tackle Ishii, so he just goes ahead and rakes his eyes. Just kind of reverting to more heelish tactics, like he chokes Ishii on the bottom rope using his foot for leverage. So it's all kind of just really pissy, heelish kind of actions.
Yeah, like I said, he he had become like uber babyface over like the last like year and a half or so, and now he's really bringing back a ton of heel mannerisms. And Ishii just looks like so fucking like mean and serious. So there's just something about like him catching the V trigger and then just like staring down Kenny afterwards.
Yeah, he's very much like like a modern day Choshu, who's a guy who he studied under and was his mentor. So
And
he's definitely taken on that style.
and that's definitely something that they make sure to point out. By the way, I love that. I love the little like the finisher stealing, like Ishii ends up hitting a V trigger. Kenny hits that vertical drop brainbuster. Something that both you and I talked about and we agree with is so by no way are we saying this is a bad match. This certainly felt flat, and what this fell into, and this is like the biggest criticism I have of Omega, is he too many fucking V triggers, man.
Yeah, he really spams them hard. I don't know if that's again him trying to be heelish, just spamming the same move over and over again. If that's his intent, is to get heat that way, but nonetheless, I feel like the match kind of suffered from it.
Well, I mean, even when I saw him last year for the back-to-back Long Beach shows, and then seeing him, I think I saw him wrestle like, I guess it would have been 3 times that weekend. By the end of it, and I think you probably remember talking about this, I'm like, dude, enough with the V triggers, man. And it's a great looking move, and he does it from different angles or like hitting it in the back of the head. But it got to the point. I mean, yeah, again, Ishii and Omega are not going to have a bad match, but this it left me feeling a little meh.
Yeah, well, and I don't know if this is just another part of the problem is that Ishii probably wasn't going to win the title. Like, just nobody really expects him to have a title reign. So it kind of feels like no matter what happens, the outcome. Whereas in the G1, you can foresee that happening. You can foresee the upset happening, and of course it did. So I think that was, a big contributing factor as well.
So of course, Omega goes over with a V trigger and a one-winged angel. You are right that when you know that one guy's not going to win, this is sort of like last summer at Long Beach with Okada and Cody, is that until people got really into the match closer to the end, I mean, it's like you're going to get into the match because you're seeing Okada and Cody, but Cody's not walking out of there with the title.
Yeah, exactly.
So that, yeah, I hear you. Again, you know what? Not like we're not shit talking it, but I think both of us felt like that the match kind of came up a little short compared to our expectations.
Yeah, I mean, you set up some pretty high expectations with the previous match, so it's going to be inherently really difficult to live up to.
Yeah, indeed. And yeah, and it's also, this is part of us is just being spoiled too.
Oh, totally. Yeah,
So
agreed.
anything else you want to add about this match or this card?
Not really. No, I don't know who the other guy was who worked with Kevin Kelly on English commentary, but he did a fine job. He didn't, you know, didn't distract for or anything like that. So good for him.
I thought he talked over Kevin a bit too much, but it was out of enthusiasm, not out of ego.
Yeah, totally.
So let's talk about what's coming up for New Japan. Basically, you've got the last two. You've got actually like another week worth of Destruction shows. But you have two big shows coming up, and then you also have Fighting Spirit Unleashed. So we're going to run over those cards real quick before we send you fine people on your way back to your Sunday evening or Monday morning or whenever you're listening to us. So Monday. So as of we're recording this, that show is just a few hours away. So you have let's just run down a 6-man tag where you have Yota Tsuji, Satoshi Kojima. It's so good to see Cozy back, and Hiroyoshi Tenzan taking on Umura, Nakanishi, and Nagata. You have a tag match with one of your boyfriends, David Finlay, and Ren Narita taking on Shota Umino, who is fucking amazing, and Toa Hanare.
Yeah. Yeah, this crop of young lions is going to be pretty awesome for sure.
Shota, who is Red Shoes Kid, is super talented. Somebody actually asked Dave recently about Kitamura, and he hasn't heard any news on him. So I am worried that Kitamura may be done for good.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, it was a bad concussion. You have Ayato Yoshida, another one of the young lions, taking on Iizuka from Suzuki-gun. You have this actually looks like a pretty cool 8-man tag match. You have Taguchi, Kushida, Tiger Mask, and Liger taking on Sho, Yo, Rocky, and Will Ospreay. I wonder who's taking the pin in that one.
It's a tough one. I can't make heads or tails of it.
So this is another good match too. This is this is the Monday show in Beppu. This is best friends Chucky T and Beretta taking on Killer Elite Squad. He's doing well. It's just so fucking odd to see Chucky T in New Japan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is got to be building up for World Tag League in a couple months. So they're getting these heavyweight tag teams a little bit more shine on these cards.
Yeah, you got to get some juice behind them. Another 6-man tag match. This Lij and Suzuki-gun, Bushi Sonata, and Evil taking on El Desperado, Kanemaru, and Zack Sabre Jr. We've got Juice, Hanma, Makabe, and Tana taking on Jay White, Yoshihashi, Yano, and Okada, setting up that Okada-Tanahashi match. It's coming up a week after this card. We have the match that I don't know why the fuck it's happening, which is Goto and Taichi for the never open weight title. Jesus fucking Christ, I can't believe this is fucking happening. Anyway, and the main event, which is going to be awesome, Tetsuya Naito taking on Minoru Suzuki. Anything you'd like to say about this card?
Should be a hell of a main event. Really looking forward to it.
And again, there's some fun tag matches on there. I mean, there won't be anything crazy happening, but there'll be some good wrestling. Then 1 week from today, Destruction in Kobe, which is the final show of the Destruction tour. Got Young Lion match. You got Yota Tsuji taking on Yuya Uemura, and I apologize if I'm slaughtering any of these names. You'd think after this one I could be able to pronounce Japanese names well, but not always. Ren Narita and Shota Umino taking on Sho and Yo. Should be a good match. This is interesting. Tiger Mask and Liger taking on El Desperado and Kanemaru. I think Desperado and Kanemaru are the tag champs.
Yeah, they are. Interesting. Yeah. Maybe they'll set up for a future title match, depending on the outcome.
Yep, agreed. Actually, I wouldn't. You know what? It's probably not going to happen, but I would not complain to see Liger and Tiger Mask get like a brief run with those belts.
Yeah, screw it. Why not? Right?
Fuck it.
I mean, that's not like the most prestigious titles in the promotion. So yeah.
So let's see here. Another 8-man tag: Yoshida, Taguchi, Hanma, and Makabe taking on Nakanishi, Nagata, Kojima, and Tenzan. It's there, but you get to see some of the cool old guys in there. I'll put it this way: you get to see Nagata, Kojima, and Tenzan. So color me happy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh,
Yeah, Tan Koozie, as Luke Gallows used to say. I love
he's
their I miss their promos in New Japan. I really do. When they were just allowed to say and do whatever the hell they wanted.
Yeah, they're just so fucking wasted. But I'm not gonna get on a rant. I'm not gonna get on a rant.
Yeah.
We again have the Best Friends taking on Killer Elite Squad, so they're definitely setting something up with that.
Yeah.
6-man tag match: Hinare, Finlay, and Juice taking on Ospreay, Yoshihashi, and Jay White. Another 6-man tag with Sonata Evil and Naito taking on Taka, Zack Sabre Jr., and Minoru Suzuki. One of the matches from the junior heavyweight tournament, Kushida and Bushi. I'm thinking and hoping Kushida goes over here. And then the main event for the right to the Tokyo Dome main event. It is Tanahashi and Okada. Tanahashi has not beat Okada in a very long time.
No, he hasn't. And now more than ever, it's imperative that he does. So it ought to be pretty interesting.
And for the record, sort of my prediction / speculative booking is that, of course, Tana wins this match, beats Kenny Omega at the Tokyo Dome, and Kenny takes the belt back at the Madison Square Garden show.
That ought to be interesting.
I think that, New Japan is right to normally take the cards, take the big matches and keep them on the Japanese cards. But I think because I used to think that like they should have Kenny Omega win his first world title here. And that's not something you can really deny those loyal fans they have in Japan. But I think that the Madison Square Garden show, I think, is a good place to have Kenny Omega win a big title match.
Yeah, that would garner a massive crowd reaction for sure.
Yeah, that's the real deal. And then I'm going to jump ahead. So another week after that, September 30th in Long Beach, California, we have Fighting Spirit Unleashed. Only 3 matches announced so far. You've got Juice and Cody for the IWGP US title. I think that's Juice's first defense, isn't it?
Probably, yeah. That ought to be fun.
And Cody, who's also a world champion, so you get a rare champion versus champion match.
Yeah, and considering how how kind of poorly booked Juice was in the G1, you got to figure that this will be a moment for him to get some shine against Cody.
Agreed. So also on that card, you have Young Bucks taking on God for the IWGP Tag Team titles. And you also have the other semifinal match for the junior heavyweight tournament, which is Ospreay versus Skrull. These two are always great together and have a feud that goes back pretty far.
Yeah. These two have feuded for a long time, and we finally have gotten to the point where Ospreay is starting to beat Skrull. So, it's not really a foregone conclusion anymore who's going to win the match. If I had to go out on a limb, I would say that Ospreay would probably win.
I would agree with you on that. So that's what New Japan's got coming up, and we will be back next Sunday to talk to you about the last 2 Destruction shows. Maddie, anything else you want to add and plug your social medias while you're at it?
Sure, yeah. Nothing really to add other than the social media. You can find me on Twitter at Albino Buddha. Typical spelling for each, underscore between each word. Also on Facebook, facebook.com/maddmatt, MADD, haha, .MATT, haha, .T. And
Jesus Christ, dude.
sorry, next time I'll be more prepared for that. And the Instagram is at Thompson MR90, Thompson with a P.
Right. So you can find me on Twitter as the Zork. That is the Zork spelled with a 0, not with an O. You can email us if that fancies you at flying.gaijin.bombcast@gmail.com. We are Flying Gaijin Bombcast on Facebook at FG Bombcast on the Twitter machine and flyinggaijinbombcast.com. Guys and gals, thank you for listening. We will see you next week.
I see the colors you don't see running down the wall. Infinity between spaces, unfamiliar sights and thoughts.